Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Make Love Easy podcast. It is my honor, my privilege, my pleasure, my delight, in fact, to introduce a former client of mine, a badass relationship, dating, sexuality, intimacy coach, Marshall Graeber. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lewis. Real pleasure to be here. I'm excited for all the good stuff that we're going to get into today.
Oh yeah, man, we've got. I don't know if people will be able to see this, but we've got a whole thing here. Um, Man, somewhere between power, sex, cults, pussy stroking, your epic story, being a leader of possibly one of the most successful dating events in on the planet, or one of the facilitators of that. Um, your experiences with emotional intelligence. Yeah, let's talk about your story first. Like, what was the mess that you turned into the message you purvey to people now?
Well, I guess the bottom line was I ended up disassociating from my emotions, particularly anger, and then because that was stopping me from having the life that I really wanted and having the sex and dating and relationships with women that I wanted.
Hmm.
Uh, Eventually figured it out and got more integrated with all of that once again, and back to me. And I was like, oh, well, that was a freaking awesome and epic journey. Let me be able to do this for other folks. So I got really inspired on that piece.
Huh.
Um, and it's kind of like it felt like a coming home type of thing. And I was like, oh, I was kind of always meant to do this in the first place. I just got off track.
Say more about that. Like, always meant to do what exactly?
This sort of
Yeah.
guidance, leadership, lead by example, wear my heart on my sleeve. Hey, if you want to feel more yourself, more alive, more at home in your body, uh, come hang out with me. And, through some form of interaction, we'll see if we can move the ball forward for you.
Oh man. Yeah, I can personally attest to that. You're a gentle, gracious, generous space for triggers and dysregulation to be resolved, even if you're not directly facilitating it.
You know, yeah, and I've now gotten it to the point through a lot of practice and a lot of intentionality, and currently still practicing and connecting to source and all this stuff. Uh, I walk around as that space, and it's really fun to see how that works and how that can affect people that I'm even just passing by on the street.
Yeah, yeah. You become a standing wave of transformation tuned to a certain frequency range where people can melt, can open, can free themselves, can receive their feelings. I'm imagining. Is this correct?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That's so
Uh,
cool, man.
Yeah, I had recently finished up holding one of the 90-day relationship experiment cohorts, and my pod, so the smaller group inside the larger group, was like, well, we'd love to hear from you. Like, what was that from you? How does like could they were interested in my reflections and experience from holding them? And I was like, dude, this one, especially this pod, like I just was more me. Like that's it. It's just that's that simple.
Huh. Say more. This was more me.
Yeah,
I
I
was.
I was just more me when I was holding that pod.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
because especially the first time you do something like that, or the first couple times, kind of trying, figuring it out, feeling into it,
Oh yeah.
this and not that, calibration, all this sort of stuff. In the in the and with the intention of being the most ethical and having the highest level of integrity that I professionally can at all times. But human still miss a couple of things here and there. Things get messy, clean stuff up. And by when I got so this I think was number 8 or 9, I was like, oh, it just felt like it was more natural, more me. There was less focus on what next or what not, and it was just more just presence and being.
So there's a lot that's opening up over here from what you're sharing. We could go the direction of facilitator, but being that this is in support of the men who want to have more of this in the background, I'm curious, was your general journey similar to mine in that you go from like sexual suppression or not fully expressed to more fully expressed to like seeking deep alignment in the expression of your energy and desire. Was it kind of like that for
Short
you?
answer, yes.
Okay, yeah, because you talk about source, and like I hear underneath that a real commitment to serve the purpose for which you were made, or the dharma for which you are here as soul. Am I reading you right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so like one of my questions that I think will be relevant to our men is like, how do you balance the hunger of the beast, an old school one taste terminology, hungry for like just sex and touch and brute, you know, with the high standards and sensitivities of being heart-centered and emotionally intelligent?
I'm trying to figure out if I can give this a shorter answer. So if you find yourself kind of fighting in that, or there's a struggle present for you, surrender.
Surrender what is the question? Which side? The standards to the beast? The beast?
Just
Standards?
stop fighting. Because it's that clash is an internal clash.
Hmm.
So the way that I would say that is you are actually fighting yourself,
Hmm.
and that's what's blocking like your natural alignment from coming through, that like attunement to source.
Hmm.
And so I don't really want to put too many different like terms or labels on that, but there's a at least two different parts of you that are in conflict,
Hmm.
and both sides of that internal conflict have to surrender, lay down their arms, and be like, okay, what the hell is actually going on here?
Fascinating. So if you were facilitating a man through such a thing, would you do like a NLP parts integration, or what would your process be to support someone and having head, heart, and cock, so to speak, be on the same page, going the same direction?
So a parts integration is awesome. I absolutely love that, and that's actually kind of informed how I developed emotional self mastery, which is my own version of like how to become more conscious and aware of how you're choosing to respond to your stimuli,
Huh,
all kinds, sex, anger, etc., the whole thing, all of it.
huh.
And so parts integration is definitely a key piece on how I work with my clients, men or women, and that helps bring them into more integrated alignment with themselves.
Hmm.
And that's not always the first place that I start, particularly with men, because uh, they can't necessarily access that. They might not have enough exposure or awareness or embody the ability to be embodied to kind of entertain the imaginary idea of
Parts?
multiple parts
Yeah.
inside themselves coming together.
Huh. Interesting. Well, clearly, and I don't want to go too deep without permission or awareness into your personal expression, but there's an arc I've observed just in general terms of more rambunctious because we met in a men's group in one taste, and that was very like, hey, we're all out. Just if you're turned on by her, have sex with her, basically. Even if she's like really old, or you're just turned on by her, but you're like aghast that you're responding to someone. They used to have that, right? Like
Yep.
stroke her pussy, even if you think she's ugly or whatever. It's like, okay. And from there, sort of absurd, potentially reckless and dangerous levels of sex positivity and validation and affirmation to now what I witness and experience from you is like exceptionally high standards and grounded emotional intelligence and like because I have the virtue of having known you for 10 years.
Yeah.
10
Yeah,
years.
you met me at the at the beginning of this for myself.
I knew you at an interesting time in your life. Yeah, to quote Fight Club, right? Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
and then I've seen the styles of relating, and I'm curious where you've landed in that integration. You say source, but I'd love for my people to have some kind of a recipe to follow, because clearly you're in a more coherent, integrated place than you were.
Yeah. And so for me, my starting point was certainly more suppression and shame, or oh my God, my sex is dangerous.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So for that type of piece, and one of the things that I would do for a male client in that spot is that positivity, that approval. Like that's one of the first pieces that kind of needs to show up
Mm.
in order to provide some well, lubrication for for for
Flow of the
for that ex
feminine,
for that expression.
their ability to receive. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to be able to have your own self-approval for your own self, your own sexual desires, and then also your other emotions and things like that as well. But like, and if you can't give that to yourself, then like, if you're going to hire me, I'll do that for you or with you, and I'll teach you how to have approval for your own sexual desires for yourself.
Mm.
Uh, and so that's definitely part of it. So that kind of ties into a an embodiment or maybe an energy like flooding type of aspect to this process. You're also going to need to, and I also coach and help people through clearing of any sort of shame, suppression, other baggage that they might have.
Mm.
So we've got two prongs of it so far. We've got approval and we've got clearing. And then we've got, okay, well, now that we've got that, what feels good to actually go out and do or practice?
Mm.
Like, how can I take all this wonderful stuff that I'm doing with myself and then start interacting with other people? And one of the number one things, especially for the man who feels very sexually hungry, is as I'm bringing approval and clearing, hopefully the clearing kind of takes out some of the sharper aspects of whatever they've got in the past, things that are more painful, the things that are harder to touch,
Mm.
the things that if they do get touched would cause that man to lose consciousness and potentially do harm.
Mm.
We take it slowly as far as how to go then interact with women and other men.
Mm.
And my first step is always go make more friends. Period.
Mm.
Because a lot of though one of the biggest blind spots that sexually hungry men have
Yep.
is thinking that the only way that they can get their hunger met is through sex.
So I wanna push back on this. I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree with it. In fact, what I generally teach is the sexual is an epiphenomena, like it comes about because of the layer of social nutrition and connection being met or dealt or danced with to a certain degree. So if a man goes out there and he's social regularly, reliably, in a way that nourishes and nutritionalizes him, and there happen to be women, and he's fully self-expressed with his desires as they arise in him as he's present, then naturally at some point he'll probably have sex, he'll probably get into a relationship. And at the same time, I'll just use me as an example. I haven't had sex in almost 800 days, not with a physical being. I had cyber sex, but it's like, what is that? And self pleasure. I did a course. Have you heard of Michael Author?
Yeah,
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 he
I've
did
heard of
an
it.
amazing 3-month course called Depth Sexuality. Because right after my last breakup, I, for some reason, came to the conclusion, well, two conclusions. One is far less, it's far more funny than the other. One was like, oh, if I just get even better at sex, then this style of breakup won't happen again. And and then there was a deeper thing, which was I kept choosing avoidant attached partners to get engaged with. And then they would break up with me and it'd be exceptionally painful. And the more transformational, spiritual, emotional intelligence you gain, the deeper you can go, the harder it hits, the more painful it is. to sort of rip that part out of you, and then it's like a phantom limb. You knew Dave Burns, right?
Yep.
Brilliant guy. I got my first email from him in probably years today about some stuff he's doing here in Austin, and I was like, oh, I'm all in. So I got back onto his website, and I was like, oh, he's still coaching, which is a surprise. And he had this whole prose poem thing about, and of course, I'm there, like, I'm telling myself I should finish my qigong and my meditation so I can be ready for the podcast. But I'm there wrapped with attention as he shares the story on his website of his journey through basically having a kid and then waking up to a text from his wife of 6 years saying, I think we need to consciously uncouple, and him going immediately to suicidal depression, and then like him talking about a miscarriage and all of this. So I'm breaking down in tears, and I'm just like, yeah, I feel you. Because for so long in my life, I was wearing the mask of, well, two masks: the overthinker, which I know you probably know well, and then the wounded lover who knows that love was real because it was lost, who subconsciously chooses women who will go deep but then run away so that he or it can feel that pain afterwards of, I'm no longer chosen, but instead I'm going to write a best-selling book about it to try to win her back, or I'm going to, write poetry about how great it was. And so all this leading to like my deep empathy for his journey of maturing into fatherhood and all of this, and like, oh yeah, I feel called to that. Like the other reason was self-sourcing and sexuality. I promise this is not a Shaggy Dog story. We'll get to how this plays into what you said in a second. Um, there was an experience in depth sexuality of like, how can you self-source so you don't choose the wrong partners, the wrong situations from hunger and from overpendulated need and craving. And so, I did self-pleasure for 30 minutes 3 times a week. And then after 3 months, I was like, all right, so what? I could do this for the rest of my life. How satisfying is this at all? Because most of the time, when I was actually experiencing pleasure in those times, it was from imagining a real fucking woman being present.
Right?
It was not because I love touching myself and it feels good being in my body the way you look at these feminine coaches like, oh, just touch yourself to heaven and touch yourself to more money and stuff. I'm like, fuck that. That shit's boring. I mean, maybe I don't have a particular interest in going back into a course or having any fucking coach tell me, oh, you know what? You just said satisfy your own needs. I'm like, no, there's a very particular nutrient that only comes from embodied, personal, one to one or one to many, I guess, sexual touch and connection. And the other thing that's been really confronting for me over the past 2 years is the inescapable conclusion that sex is this spiritual, energetic, sometimes attachment circuitry activating thing. And so the beast can no longer just be all out anymore because I know too much. I see too much. And then there are moments where I'm just like, I want to just say, fuck it. Let's just go back in that direction. That is a very particular angle. But yeah, do you catch my meaning? Do you hear what I'm pointing to?
Yeah, so I'm gonna just flat out agree with you. The that embodied sexual experience, energetic, spiritual, physical, heart, the whole thing can only really be nourished and fulfilled through that.
So that's
And
go ahead.
there is a particular way that hits maleness
Uh-huh.
that hits differently than it hits femaleness.
To say more, because this is hitting on an exact experience I think that I've been having.
Um, so just through our like natural biology, if you know, your testosterone, you're in a male body, your energy and like the way that you feel like you are, especially if you've got this alignment where you feel like you're here to create,
Hmm.
then you're here to create, and you find yourself, attracted to women. You're here to create pleasure for that person, that woman, or possibly a man, but that's not my experience. So I'm gonna
Experience
stick to
pleasure.
this.
to really experience pleasure, I think this is the way the one taste people would put it. You're experiencing pleasure in giving and inducing and activating pleasure for her. Like your pleasure is the byproduct. They used to say that the woman is turned on first. You're turned on by her turn on, right?
So,
Not exactly
to,
that.
like they said that, yes, and it's it 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 feels a little bit more like a chicken or egg type of thing.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
flat out, I definitely am a man. I identify as a man, and I have more masculine energy most of the time.
No
I've
way.
also got
I would
I've
have
got some.
never guessed. It just you don't come off that way. You definitely come off as metrosexual. I'm just kidding. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. At any rate, that's my experience. And so I also have developed and gotten more integrated and in touch with my feminine energy for sure. And I also just really love receiving. I can be very expressed in that as well. I've also, along the course of my sexual journey, discovered that I really love having my prostate stimulated. So, that kind of opens up a different door of receiving.
So
Um, and so maybe if you don't have that much feminine and you're really more masculine than I am, maybe that line that they said, like, hey, you get turned on through her turn on, your pleasure is through giving her pleasure. Uh, like I can see that, and especially if I'm in a more masculine, space, and she's really dropping into her receiving feminine, and that it kind of inspires me to be even more masculine, and then like this spread and this energy grows and heightens. Then in those moments, yeah, that's 100% true. But for me, like that comes in moments. It's not like statically true across my entire life because there are definitely moments where I would love to receive from a woman sexually. Like, and does that mean that she has to come stimulate my prostate? No, but I would love to receive from her. And so there's a certain like part of at least my being that particular framework completely ignores. And so
hmm.
like this may be like a minority experience for a set percentage of men that's not the majority. But like I, I find it hard to imagine that that one framework exists 100% of the time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. One taste was arguably a biased framework with a political agenda.
Yeah, and so one of the things that they did supremely well was, hey, here's the table. Fuck the table. Let's burn it, flip it over. We're gonna break all the rules.
Ugh,
Like they
ugh.
were so absolutely perfect and brilliant for that. Like
The
you're stuck in some sort of static bullshit, you're gonna get blown up when you walk in the
yeah,
door.
yeah, yeah.
And so thank God, because that helped me, and I'm sure and I saw it help other people.
Yeah.
There are other things to talk about with One Taste, but that was
Yes.
one of their genius moments for sure.
Well, the implied comparison between Jesus and Nicole Daedone, I cannot support. They both flipped over tables, but I'm not sure you were going there. Um,
I was not going there. I
okay,
had so although I if I put my attention on it, I can remember some of the biblical stories, but they're not really in the forefront of how I interact with spirituality
yeah,
anymore.
no, no.
So I kind of just neglect them, and if they come out, it's like, well, somebody wrote something before I said this. Great.
Well, so that's interesting, right? Because for me, um, there's so much I want to talk about in one taste. We'll get back to that though. You said at first you started with suppression and oh my God, my sex is dangerous. And there's a certain measure of shame that can actually be smeared back on sexuality once one realizes the energetic consequences. Like where it's like, okay, now I have to be really careful because otherwise, and I don't know if this is just me or other men who go through the arc of suppression to expression to seeking alignment, but like I'm I'm at an interesting crossroads where the first time in 20 years porn is gone. Like just no desire left. and all the holes in my past patterns of like controlling and managing it, like there's this seamless container for my allowing authentic sexual expression to arise in my body without mediation or without the soul sucking, dopamine driven cravingness of, reaching onto a screen and pressing a button or something, and having an orgasm with no one, actually, with just images.
Yeah, because I mean, you're not even there either.
Yes, exactly. You're dissociating in order to sort of use your body in order to create neurochemical states. And so I take it you probably guide your people first with non-judgment on the habit, and then into suggesting probably they should stop and engage with real women if they want better results, talking to men.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it feels appropriate, I will also, teach them the practice of Om, because the practice itself, the container and what it does for both participants is magnificent.
Hmm.
And if you take out all of the rest of the one taste and you extract just the practice and you hold that with reverence, ethics, integrity, professionalism, that's brilliant. It is the number one fastest way to get in touch with your body for men or women that I have ever experienced.
Hmm. Yeah, I think at least once, but maybe several times with partners, introduced them to Om and had them just break down crying because there was a like unfreezing in the experience, the devotional encoding of the practice, because it's a like giving without a need for reciprocation. And I remember it was Keith Paulino used to have the talk. Well, what does a man get out of Om? I
Yep.
remember distinctly. I think I recorded that talk actually, and like men get a lot out of it, and there's a propensity for women down the line to open through safety and through depth that gets cultivated there into giving men exactly what they want and more than what they knew they were capable of receiving. I mean, I remember when I was doing Om, there was like a 30-day challenge or something, and then I went to New York, and it was the middle of the ILP. Did you do ILP?
I did their coaching program.
Okay,
Um,
you did
I
CP. That's one taste. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was in Landmark's coaching program, but I was
Oh, okay.
doing yeah, I was doing a 30-day Om practice, and I distinctly remember like how easy and delightful it was. Like do you remember the Om Hub?
Yeah.
You could just ask people to Om through direct messages. You could look at their picture and their profile and just be like, "Would you like to have an Om?" And so I remember I set myself up for my trip to New York with women who wanted to Om with me each day while I was there. And then the second woman was this beautiful actress and model who we own. And then there's still tumescence, like we close the container. We're still feeling. And so I made a request. I was like, would you like to cuddle? And and so we cuddled on her couch. And then as we're cuddling, I'm like, would you like to kiss? And then after that, I was like, would you like to fuck? And she was like, yes. And so then we had sex, and I wrote poetry that I left in her book that she found days later. And anyway, there were such
Yep.
magical,
Absolutely.
magical experiences that came from devoting oneself to becoming an instrument in service to the pleasure of women in that
Yeah.
way, and
Yeah.
attuned into the body and open energetically. And that there was one woman who said something like, her take on it was that a woman who can feel you after you've owned can feel that there's a woman on you, like that you've been connected and open to a woman recently, which goes all the way back to Alan Reyes, also known as Gunwitch in the seduction community's magic pussy dust theory, which he was like, if a woman can tell you're getting laid, you're more likely to get laid with that woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a certain, nonverbal, energetic, or whatever level, like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And there is a certain level of like uh, clearing and calmness, whether you ejaculate or not.
Uh-huh.
Like your nervous system is transformed through an experience that is that connected and deep. there's no way to avoid that. You just are transformed.
One of the tricky things that I noticed about Ohm, and I have no doubt and zero contention against it being a tool in relationship for deepening intimacy, deepening emotional intelligence and sensitivity, fitness alchemy within oneself, between like a communicational tool between partners. By the way, I don't know if our listeners were aware of this, but there's a course on pussy stroking that Marshall created, and at one point I was a participant in, to a degree, and I recommend that because I think someone should be teaching the optimization of the use of that tool or that practice or that skill and capacity. And it's part of the intrinsic texture of an optimized relationship between a man and a woman, in my estimation. Like if they're
Yeah,
leaving that on the table, if they're leaving that out, there's a, a possibility that's missing.
absolutely.
Now, the problem on the other side, though, is own with people who are not your partners. You remember what it was like to own with like 5 or 10 different people in a month or some shit, right?
Yeah, well, and so I also did that as I was kind of reconnecting and awakening and finding approval for my sexual energy.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that I can't really replicate by myself as a coach.
Huh.
That takes a community of people.
Yeah.
But there is that element of flooding the energy system. Like, oh, here I'm stroking a woman's clit for 15 minutes. Like that's where the practice comes in handy. Or like, hey, how can I, as a coach, provide some sort of, I don't know, similar experience to a degree, obviously, because I can't match it.
Oh, it's
So that's
yeah.
the flooding piece and the approval piece. But like when I was doing it with multiple people, sometimes multiple times a day, like the level of awareness that I have now was not the level of awareness I have then. So Lord knows exactly what was happening for me. But I had a ton of different women's energies, and whoever stroked them, they're the man that was stroking
Right.
them. Their energy was probably in my system too. But
It's that
like
family guy thing.
I had no way to describe this or like get clarity on it. Like, so I'm not exactly sure like what exactly the impacts were on that, but like it did guide me like basically back to my body and back to just trying to figure out myself, which was kind of the point. And then occasionally was there something that I absorbed that, was somebody else's and didn't belong to me and didn't want to stick around for any variety of reasons. Yeah, occasionally I had to do some clearing and it took me a while to kind of catch on to that piece. And do some enmeshment or unhooking or whatever, conscious unconscious, you name it, whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's all aiming at the same thing. Get this part of this person that's not mine out of my system.
Yeah, there's in cultivating that space of there's no cords and tethers. There's no intermingling of energy. There's no I need them or I need to be connected to them, even at a subconscious level where I'm like still dreaming about a former partner, whatever. Like there's a sovereignty and a strength of character, and then a certain measure of bliss that I have actually cultivated, experienced. I mean, my past two major relationships, I went to the Modern Mystery School and made sure they did like a very formal, ritualistic cord cutting. And actually, after I think it was after my one of these breakups, I did the cord cutting, and the woman who did the cord cutting on me said it's very common for your former partner to feel that the energetic cord has been cut, and they will reach out to you. And I was like, oh yeah, well that's a feature. Let's do that. And then I retethered, right? I
Yep,
reattached and started
yep.
another cord cutting. And after the next breakup, the cord cutting happened, and I was like, all right, I've got much higher standards, which sort of brings my whole. So I really want to comment that when you ever seen Family Guy when they say, oh, all right, don't lick this frog because when you lick this frog, you're licking everyone this frog has licked, and that's that's kind of the image I got of men wandering around, potentially destabilizing and intermingling energies with people who they haven't really thoughtfully considered the nature of what's going on under the surface. And
Mm-hmm.
I get it. It's unsuppressing sexual energy and it's like liberating, free depth. And yeah, but for actually, you know what? Do you think that thing at the end of Tantra speed date really works to remove other people's energy? What I return what is yours to you.
Yeah, I set you free, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So if, depends on how you interact with it.
Huh.
If you trust it, if you've got the intention, if you put your attention on it and you actually be like, hey, I believe this, I am letting whatever I've got free. Like if you add your consciousness, effort, and attention to that, then yeah, absolutely it works.
Huh.
If you're sloppy with it, if you don't believe in it, if you're like, well, I guess we're doing this weird, goofy, whoop-de-doo thing at the end of Tantra Speed Date,
Yeah.
you probably won't get anything out of it, and you'll probably be walking around with other people's stuff. But also, at that level of awareness and consciousness, it's kind of part of that phase. Like, you got to go through it in order to be like, oh, I don't really want this anymore,
Mm.
because I don't know how you'd be able to skip that. Go from like, hey, I feel shame about my sex, straight to I am clear in my boundaries and energy and I don't mess around with keeping anybody's shit. Like, that's a jump I don't know that humans can make.
Huh. Well, I'm I just bring myself up as an example because I know my people appreciate authenticity and vulnerability. Like it's not shame exactly, but it's like a trepidation and a reticence around sexuality that comes partially from, being hurt by the in these post engagements and then concluding, all right, well, casual sex is often an avoid and attached nervous system deactivation strategy. It's a
Sure,
way of running from intimacy.
can
And
be.
the people who tend to have casual sex in general, there's a bias in the population towards, well, I'm going to open to you physically to get what I need emotionally without acknowledging that that's what's going on and not giving back to you what's going on emotionally. And I know this from Tinder dates across 2015, where I would open up my heart and have sex with them, and then they would ghost. I know this from observing people who I've engaged with. The one woman, a relationship coach, who I had cyber sex
Yeah,
claimed to be a relationship coach. I mean, I vote her victory. And so
y-
there's like I don't know. Well, I choose to know. It's like it's not a neo shame, but it's really close to the, oh my God, my sex is dangerous for my emotional body because I have such
sure.
intimacy with my inner feminine that my inner feminine's like, oh, I don't want to open my heart again and get hurt, you know? And
Yeah,
that's probably a
absolutely.
rare problem for men.
Um, I would say it's more common than you might think.
Huh.
Um, I would
Solidarity.
say that the awareness of that being an issue is way lower than is healthy for the general male population.
Yeah.
Um, so as you get past like the shame or the guilt or some of the stickier, more common stuff around sex for men, I would say that that's one of the actual root causes that would present as erectile dysfunction.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I don't
not have that
actually like,
problem.
yeah. So if, well, and once again, this is going to depend on the unique man, but there's a segment of the population out there that like, hey, if my heart's also not in it
Yep.
openly,
Yep.
then my body's not going to be in it, and I'm not going to get erect.
Yep.
And that's just how it is.
Yeah, that's it.
And
That's interesting. Well, go ahead.
yeah, and so and I'm gonna say that I'm gonna out myself and say that I'm one of those men that has experienced this sort of thing.
Hmm.
And first from a like, oh hey, there's a lot of responsibility that I now need to take on around sex, because like, oh, I've seen some of the harm and the havoc it can cause. both to myself and to others. And so I like shame to rambunctious and open and wild and like whatever to, hey, let's dial this back in a little bit
Yeah.
more, to, oh, well, let me see if I can drop the worry and simply be a little bit more present and alive, and like maybe even have some vulnerable conversations around this. Then to like, oh, I for these particular interactions, something is missing, and that's causing me to be connected with this woman, feel erotic energy, but not feel like fucking, and penetration is the thing. I'm like, well, some of it might be from her. I'll ask her some curious and gentle questions to kind of see if we can, maybe uncover what's happening. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, what about my side? What's happening here? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, this whole like, am I going to get my heart hurt again? And so that can exist from time to time. And so there's a legit element of like wisdom in the moving slowly and not choosing to have sex for a certain period of time with someone as you get to know them, so you can actually feel authentically trusted and connected.
Mm.
And it's really a try it out and figure it out, because there's no set duration of like, oh yeah, you'll get to trust somebody in 12 dates or in 3 weeks or in 9 months, or how you can't tell before you actually get into it.
And then, you might trust somebody and they might actually not end up having been worthy of trust.
Yes,
And
that's entirely possible.
that's actually been really reassuring for me from a kind of, and speaking very honestly, like you saw Battlestar Galactica, right?
Oh yeah, that's a fucking amazing show.
Isn't it?
Jesus Christ. We could
So
have a whole podcast on that with us talking about it.
we could bookmark. Um, so as a facilitator and as a public speaker, as a thought leader, to whatever degree, like I take my responsibility for having a direction for people to go in, something to hope in, something to have faith in, something to believe in, some possibility to pursue. I take that as seriously as I believe he did. Adama, like
Mm-hmm.
there was no Earth when they started the show that he was clear on, but he's like, we're going to Earth. There's an Earth. And so even if there isn't, if it isn't clear which direction to go, I, it's not fake it till you make it. It's faith it till you make it. So I faith it in
Yeah,
the direction of like there's somewhere to go. Coming back to what you were saying, um, like there's a cynical part of me, resigned and cynical, that says, well, I need to believe that the depth of relationship and nourishing sex is available to all. And the ultimate in that, like a married divine partnership where I get to have a kid, is available to me. And yet, it might also be the case that we open our hearts, we trust, and then 50 to 70% of marriages end in divorce or breakup, right? Or relationships end in breakup. And then the conversation becomes, well, I will trust this person and get what I get and receive what I get and give what I give until I don't, until they don't.
yeah,
And it's like a really sober-minded, this person may hurt me, it may cause the same degree of pain that I experienced before, but I'm willing to make myself vulnerable to that possibility again. And I think
absolutely.
that's maturity. Like
Yeah,
I'm gonna walk in this direction, even if I'm not sure that there is an earth that's going to come out of this path that I'm following, but I'm going to believe that it's possible because it keeps me walking while knowing that the Cylons may destroy my entire fleet.
yeah. And to kind of bring that back into relationships,
Yeah.
there's some other like honest and authentic and sometimes challenging conversations that you can have in order to get a little bit more actual honest clarity to introduce some more emotional bonding and depth of trust. And one of the simplest ideas I've ever heard for any of this is creating a relationship container.
Yep.
And even picking like, oh, we're gonna do this for a week, we're gonna do this for 3 months, and at the end of that, we'll see where we're at, and then feel into Do we want to continue? Do we want to make adjustments? Do we want to make a bigger container, a deeper container? What is it next?
Yeah,
Or are we done?
so and I have friends who every year on their engaged on their wedding date, they check in and they say, "Do we still want to be here?"
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's fucking brilliant because how are you supposed to know what's going to happen a year from now?
Exactly. Like, who am I authentically in that moment? And I just found out that Claude doesn't want to talk about relationship contracts in the context of One Taste because of the public controversy about the federal indictment of Nicole Daydone.
I could understand Claude's opinion on that one.
I'm pretty sure I can get what I want from ChatGPT. It'll be fine. Um, but anyway, yeah, they used to have this idea of the relationship contract, and they're friends of art, people who we know. Um, did you ever meet Joe Carr and Serenity?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I think the same trip met you, I met them.
and their
Anyway,
relationship over the past 10 years, 11, 12, whatever, has flourished and bloomed and blossomed into a massively successful company and depth of intimacy that I perceive between them. And it all started with like a 90-day relationship contract. And I think at one point, Joe even shared his contract with me, and I have it somewhere. But yeah, there's the better sex conversation at the low end of like, what are your needs, boundaries, desires, etc., kinks. There's the container of agreements, which is like, I care about you enough to want to establish a field of play where we do our best to honor each other. And then there's like the relationship contract, which seems a little heftier, like all right, we're actually committed to each other in a certain way. And here's like the give and take. You could say more about that. And then there's the deepest form, which is 8 dates by the Gottmans, this book, where you literally go on 8 dates. You do a deep, comprehensive interview on topics like children, finances, religion, shared values, sexuality, so that you discern compatibility. And for me, the challenge has been, because I've been practicing those, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is like, and by the way, I have flex time. You let me know whenever you need to go.
yeah,
So
I got some flex time too.
okay, cool. I got a full 30, 40 minutes. So you just let me know. But
We'll do.
the how heavy and how quickly to introduce these conversations. Like what I found in the past is the best leverage I had, and I never thought of it this way until after the relationships were long gone. The best time to introduce conversations to make the connection deeper, better, more juicy is after you've started having sex and the limerence, the honeymoon period has started. And so there's like a little bit of enmeshment maybe and blending and confluence. And one of the worst times is when they don't actually care about you that much to put stock in or to practice formally something that matters far more to you and the safety of your heart than to them. And I've tried that a couple times with women. Like I literally last year made a video, the agreements that make relationship work. And I said, hey, this, I like you. I like making out with you. I like what we got going. I really respect you. I want to give you what you need, and I want to get what I need. I'm going to make this video. Will you watch it? Dead silence. It hurt terribly because I complimented her in the beginning of the video, and I've used that for my coaching containers since.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is a great video for agreements to hold between partners and between, client, coach, and all this other thing. And she didn't even watch it. I went to all these lengths to create it for her, and she, I guess, didn't see or get how much it mattered to me. And I was like, all right, fuck you. Like, if you're not going to honor what I did in order to pave a path for us to easefully, gracefully, graciously, lovingly, compassionately, sensitively, with awareness and intention, relate to one another. And then I was walking around for about 6 months with the story that, all right, if a tantra teacher, a relationship coach, a qigong teacher, and a tantra facilitator, these women that I got, one of them I met at Tantra Speed Date actually. She's now basically marrying a former client of mine. And anyway, with all these women, I was like, they're asleep at the wheel of their ego. They're not willing, they're not able, they're not available, their capacity is not showing itself, or maybe they just didn't care about me enough to want to engage me in creating a field of play or crafting a deeper realm of commitment. So like again, I'll ask how heavy and how quickly to introduce these conversations, and what's the sign that you can know that all right, it's time, other than oh, I just put my penis in her and we both feel really good. Because that's I don't think that's the best criteria.
That's not the best time. No,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would not advise that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so for me, both back in the fall and recently, I've been getting out there and going and trying some more dating things for me personally.
Cool.
One of them was I forgot what it's called. Oh, Lovely, Luvvly. And basically you go on like between 6 to 8 like 5 minute dates. Uh, and I was like, well, it's been a while since I've kind of ventured out of this like sex positive, like tantra community
Oh
type.
yeah, where it's like it's
So
everything is
yeah, let me go re-experience what's out there.
yeah.
Um, and I really value all this like depth and stuff. So for the first time I went out there, I asked each of the women right when we sat down, would you like to take a deep breath with me to kind of just sync up and to feel each other? And I did this actually for the 5 different events that I went to. I went 2 for 40.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Wait, what does that mean? What's the
Well,
statistics
out
mean?
of the 40 women that I sat down with, on a dating event, we're both clear that we're here to date.
Yeah.
I don't know their backgrounds. I don't know them from a hot rock, but the first thing I asked them is invite them to a little bit more depth and like co-regulation.
Oh yeah, genius.
2 women said yes, 38 said no.
Weird.
Right? I thought so. At any rate, um, basically that was my hey, this is like the simplest, lightest
I
invitation to
know.
depth I can possibly come up with.
Oh, you know what it is? You tell me, but I've got a theory. Go on.
Um,
They're just scared.
so yeah, my general theory is in general, women are just a little bit scared, which makes sense. I get it. I was feeling unsafe. I get it. Um, another thing is, well, maybe that's simply too fast, too soon for the type of women that are showing up to this dating event. I didn't, make that mean anything about me, but it was kind of my science experiment in a sense.
Yeah.
Of like, well, all right, I know I'm here for depth. I know that I eventually want that. And one of the ways that I'm going to help myself kind of filter is like who else is available for depth is this. It seems pretty simple.
Hmm.
Like, hey, a deep breath, maybe a little bit of like 5 to 10 seconds of eye gazing, something really simple that like should not be a big deal. And I was just like, I was pretty well stunned the first time. I was like, wow, nobody. Okay. Time two, nobody. Well, maybe this is normal. Time three. Okay, got one yes. Interesting. But like as far as I can tell, for the vast majority of like people in general, especially in America, there's such a level of living in survival and living in a tight nervous system that's always on guard
Yeah.
that most people probably don't even realize it's possible to drop that
Yeah.
is what I've kind of guessed and determined from that experiment.
It strikes me how you have broadened the scope of what you do to emphasize and focus on emotional intelligence for people in the highest leverage positions. Given that, given that, you're far more you're a higher leverage to humanity as a technology for transformation. You personally, what you embody, the codes, the awarenesses, like instead of getting men laid, not that you aren't still doing that, in alignment, but I see the evolution and I see why you're going the direction that you're going. And I vote massive victory for it because it's like, yeah, humans, especially in America, they are walking around armored up. And that armor is defeating their capacity for empathy, their capacity for high performance and flow, their capacity for depth of intimacy and just joy and fulfillment in their body in the moment. And am I reading and tracking you right that you realize this is a far bigger, deeper, richer problem to tackle for humanity?
Yeah, absolutely. And having had that experience, I was like, damn, it would take me forever to kind of go around in even like 20 to 50 person groups to kind of make this sort of impact for folks to do this. I'm like, okay. And one of my innate skills that I've been gifted is just like systems analysis, and I mean system in the broadest sense.
Yeah.
Like the government's a system, society is the whole thing, including all the way down to like, oh, has this thing got enough power? So just like, hey, here's the problem. Fix this. It's like, oh, the biggest leverage opportunity is for me to go to where there are more people that have bigger impact on more people. So I can then have a multiplicative, exponential possibly effect on like impacting people's nervous systems, because that's the first thing that really needs to start getting shaken up
Yeah.
is this, clutching to survival being the only way to live.
Uh-huh.
And if you like, so when you're in survival, well, no wonder we've got all of these fights, arguments, wars, rape, all this shit, because we're all like running around like this, smashing into each other. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, we're
anyway,
all sort of asleep at the wheel, numbed out, apathetic, driven,
yeah.
perceiving and relating to pain rather than in pursuit of pleasure or vision. And
Yeah.
there's so
And
much.
and I've only got two hands, so I can only stroke two clits at the same time. So I'm going for some more leverage here.
That's like one of my mentors. He used to say after I had a string of like long distance relationships, there was there was one with somebody in Costa Rica, and then the other one was in Missouri, and he was like, "Dude, Lewis, your dick is not that long. I mean, you just gotta understand. You gotta understand." So yeah, there's so much more here, man. But to flip it, well, before we flip it, who do you best serve? Who do you most? Because I know it's like CEOs, leaders, executives, where you can hit the head of culture and it ripples out, right? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so yeah, this is also kind of like a new pivot for me, a new place to put my attention.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, the people that manage teams basically it is like the bare minimum qualifier, and like are looking to honestly increase performance from their team.
Simple. Yeah.
Yeah, like and it may it's so funny because like the best analogy I can come up with is like the green movement that was like, hey, can we be a little bit more environmentally friendly in business?
Yeah.
And it is absolutely mind-numbing, like how asleep people are, because like, hey, look, this thing over here also saves you like $1 million a year if you would make this change that
Yeah.
happens to be quote unquote green. But like, no, why would we change? It's just like, um, so similar type of thing where like, hey, if your people are happier, less stressed, and can feel more alive, they will actually increase their own efficiency, increasing your team efficiency, increasing your productivity, yada yada yada. The ripple effects are actually from the fucking bottom up,
Yes.
not this trickle down bullshit.
More signal, less noise in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're cleaning up the potency of your employees' effectiveness,
Yeah.
basically.
Re-
Because
Regulating
one of
the
the
flag.
biggest, yeah, one of the biggest resistances and things that gets in people's way is stress and worry and anxiety about where they're going to get their next part, a piece of survival, what they need next.
Mhm.
If you help alleviate that, they will likely be very grateful, and they'll have more energy to actually spend, some of which will come your way.
Yeah.
Just like the whole idea of the hungry, starving for sex man. Like, if you come starving and hungry and with a lot of force, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of anything. But if you actually like slow down and see what it is you can offer and what sort of invitations you can make, oh, you might actually find that someone wants to willingly come towards you, which is way more rewarding than forcing somebody to do something anyway.
Hmm. Yeah, you're more inviting the more regulated you are. You're more magnetic the more regulated you are. Um, so that's cool. Thank you for doing that on behalf of human civilization and culture.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it my best shot. We're gonna see how it goes. I think it's gonna be great. We'll see just exactly how great.
To totally spin this plot around in a new direction. Um, the question arose for me recently, like, yeah, I desire depth too. I see that. And I also see that my last several partnerships, even the sex partners, came to me as an expression of my desire for depth in context where depth was being cultivated, where depth was appreciated and valorized and celebrated. Transformational events, authentic relating games, whatever. But don't you ever just want to fuck a muggle with a nice butt?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is where it becomes interesting. The power dynamics of having the skills that you and I have, that men in Make Love Easy, for example, will be cultivating for themselves. Enchantment, reaching into the deep sexual subconscious, whether through stroking a pussy or speaking some language patterns, gives men a skill that sets them over and above the pack, makes them more effective, successful, but also potentially makes them liable for power dynamics that not everybody is liable to engage in. Like, what have you noticed for yourself? And we were talking about this in our sort of dry rehearsal a
Yep.
couple weeks ago. Like, as one taste as an example, coaching containers as an example, like how to exercise power responsibly, but also how not to betray the fact that you might have a desire and you have the power to make it happen. And like, so there's like two different poles. I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, I want to be clear about this part for men. Whether you realize it, feel like it, or agree with it or not, you always have more power than the woman.
Physically,
Always.
energetically. Yeah.
Always. How the one spot where that's usually can be and is usually not true, where the woman has her power over you and her leverage point is in the emotional energetic realm most of the time.
She has more intrinsic skill. Yeah.
No. And so that leads to, well, quite a lot of butthurt men on the internet in general, to be honest.
Incels,
um
pills, complaining, whiny pickup artists. Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of the general setup that we've got in reality in the world today, especially in America.
Hmm.
So if you find yourself in the position that has more power over someone or someone's, taking this to like the work example, the corporate example, but dialing it back to relationships, if you find yourself in a relationship with a woman, as a man, you've got more power than she does,
Hmm.
plain and simple. And so it is, with more power comes more responsibility.
Yeah.
That's how this works.
Yeah.
And it's now up to you to really determine your own values on how you engage with that and interact with it.
Hmm.
I certainly have preferences, and I point men in the direction of more integrity, more ethics, and more responsibility,
Yep.
because I find that ends up being better for everyone. Um, One of the interesting pieces is there are moments where, like, I've had clients where that doesn't align for them,
Hmm.
and like they're not ready to make that step into more responsibility. They're still kind of in the play it out, fuck it out phase.
Huh.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, you're paying me to coach you. You can make that decision. I want you to know that you can make that decision, but you're still on the hook for all the consequences.
Yes.
And so I at least make sure that they're aware that there will be consequences, and it's going to be their responsibility to therefore deal with those consequences.
Mhm. Simple.
And
And
the obvious one that happens more frequently than might even still be talked about is, oh, look, there's a kid.
yep, yep.
Well, buddy, you reap what you sow, quite literally.
Yeah, and then sometimes it turns into an abortion. Um, and that can be even more painful.
Yeah.
I had an experience with a partner about it was a long while ago, and she didn't want to keep the child. And that left a sort of emotional, energetic scar that I carried for years without realizing it. Doesn't matter what trimester or whatever the fuck, there's a switch that flips in the male brain the moment implantation and conception occurs that switches on kind of father circuitry. And
Yeah.
I taught this in my Becoming a Social Rock Star course because I'm teaching them step by step how to get sex or get a date or whatever. And I'm like, just FYI, if you're isolating, if you're bringing her out of a social context to a place where, she's willing and available to open up more without public shaming for self-expression of her sexuality, understand whatever you do sexually could lead to a child, could lead to pain of an abortion, could lead to trauma. So responsibility. I was almost trying to ward them off. Like, no, don't even do this. Like, you might want a relationship. You might want to wait rather than hustling and bustling to your end goal here. Um, now,
Yeah, I certainly advise men in the same way, but one of the things that I've taken on for myself, especially professionally, is I'm never going to force anybody into anything.
yeah.
So I like if he wants to sleep around, have unprotected sex, so like I can't force him not to. I also am actually not that powerful. I can't like it's not something that I can accomplish.
I don't currently have that capacity, not with the powers of my mind.
Yeah. Turns out that like Jedi force powers don't actually exist. Damn.
Well, not in the sense in which we usually conceive of them, for sure.
Yeah, not in this way for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like I do
Totally.
whatever I can to, you know, provide enough data for them to make a fully informed consent choice.
And I think that's it. It's like it's about informed consent, but then the question becomes, one of my mentors, Andres Martinez, he used to say in his Wealthy Soulmate course, he said, for a lot of people, what they perceive to be sexual and romantic needs are actually unmet emotional and spiritual needs.
Yeah,
And so, is someone really giving full consent when there's like whole continents in their subconscious mind that they have not addressed that are leading them to potentially making choices that are dysfunctional? And I don't know. I think surface wise you could say, oh yeah, they're unconstrained in their decisions. But if they're still constrained by subconscious forces that they don't see and are not awake to, like a dysregulated nervous system for most people, then is that
yeah.
really consent? I don't know.
Well,
It's like playing with a
for
child.
from my own personal experience, that is another reason why I might not get an erection, to be honest.
Go team.
Like, and it's not even something that I consciously made a choice to do,
Ah, shit. Yeah, that must
but
suck.
like my I have actually like gotten so clear on my own values, the way that I want to comport myself, and what I know and have experienced. Like, hey, there's something here. Only go so far. Like, there have been a couple of experiences where we're naked, we can feel some erotic energy, and like there's just something here that's not happening, and so I at that point it's like, okay, well, we can do some other things and have some fun, or we can kind of close up shop. That's okay too. But I also like know that I kind of have the sense that going into that sort of engagement and encounter, it was not going to turn into a deep relationship that I'm actually headed towards anyway. It
Uh-huh.
is more of, hey, I'm here to have fun. This feels open to a large degree. There might be some stuff that like, hey, we're not going to go too far, but like we're humans. We like nakedness. We like touching people's genitals. Like let's have some fun. And it's been interesting to just notice like, oh, well, my body is super intuitive and responsive, so I'm just gonna trust it and not try to force anything. I'm not gonna pop a Viagra just to try to like, get it up so I can penetrate. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna trust the wisdom of my own cock to be like, yes, fucker, no, don't. And if it's soft, it's clearly like, well, we're not supposed to be penetrating right now.
Trust the wisdom of your cock. Yeah, if you've gotten embodied and you've cleared out emotionally enough, then that, like if you're in your body, if you're listening to your body will it won't just keep the score, it'll tell you the score, it'll show you the scorecard in relation to this other person. And yeah, then I mean that's an interesting resolution for the overthinker and the wounded lover. Like, all right,
Hmm.
well, if these women aren't turning you on, and you're taking Gokshura or ashwagandha or Mucuna pruriens or velvet deer antler or any of these supplements that can increase testosterone and responsiveness to stimuli of the female body or any level of attention or attractiveness, then maybe you're snubbing and suppressing a natural sign that's just alignment is not present.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I live in regards to supplements or substances of any kind. Like
Yeah.
your body has enough of everything it needs on its own. You've got some self-reflection clearing work to do if you're not really seeing exactly what you want to see or experience.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then if like somewhere along the lines you throughout your own like medical and health journey you find that oh something's out of balance,
Hmm.
that it's for whatever reason there's some wiring that didn't get quite done correctly or something got damaged, and you would like to kind of help that come back up to a like regular level, great, fine. But like if like you don't just have that sort of you know break in like your system, then you don't actually need to supplement it with anything.
Man,
It's gonna be there.
I've got so much supplements that I have maybe no use for now. Or maybe in the next relationship.
I mean, and by all means, like I'm also of the opinion like experiment with it and see for yourself.
Yeah,
Like you don't have to take my word as gospel, and in fact, please don't.
for
I
sure.
don't want to be your guru. I don't want to be your Jesus. Don't do that.
Trust me, don't believe it just because I say it. Test it, try it out. I immerse myself in whatever frame is under consideration, and I go all the way in, like as if it's absolute truth, in order to interrogate myself and my life through it and to see what fruits it produces. So I try on the suit fully. So which you heard
Yeah,
me trying on the suit fully. Yeah, I'm probably still gonna take Kokshura and other things from time to time, but because there are other effects as well. But I have so much respect for your poise and posture in relation to intimacy, and respect for the wisdom of your cock, as you say. Um, and like, yeah, I have so much curiosity about your spiritual beliefs and things you've manifested, your journey with that, with Source you've mentioned a couple of times. So bookmarking that for a moment. I think here's my contention that the safest, healthiest, most deep, rich, aligned place for intimacy is actually one on one. Because the nervous system only has the capacity for a certain depth with one person at one time. You could split that and then you could go to certain levels of depth, but then there's noise on the line. What do you think?
yeah. Given that I've been in the sex positive space for 10 years now, I've certainly had experiences with multiple people, multiple partners, etc., either at the same time or at different times. Um, and yeah, one on one is the space that's got the space for the most depth for sure. Like even if you find yourself like in a very aligned, healthy, or and natural like interaction of like a threesome or a foursome, there's just more stimulus, there's more nervous systems, and each one of you has a connection to each individual person, and then you've got the connections between the pairs, and like the amount of complexity just kind of exponentially increases, which
Very much.
great, enjoy it, have fun with it. But you're probably not going to get to the depth that is like I don't know how deep it goes yet, to be honest, but it can go pretty deep with just one person because you've got both of you have your attention on the other person and yourself. That's it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And
And
there's a certain like clearing that provides.
yeah, the co-regulation piece. And then there's like a feedback loop of this here now between you and I, we, rather than the scattering of I'm fractionating my attention, right? So it's like an energetic reality of particle flow in a certain direction to a certain person and then back from them. It's pretty cool. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm saving my best questions for last, but what does Ohm provide texture wise in relationship for people? Like what does it open up pussy stroking and activate for people in relationship or connection?
The like most valuable thing is returning a connection to your body.
Uh-huh.
Like flat out, most people live above their neck,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or at the very least consciously, or even somewhat consciously, like above their neck. They don't usually pay attention to what's below their neck.
Hmm.
And when you participate in an ohm, that's the only place your attention's intended to go. Like you say yes to an ohm, you are therefore agreeing, hey, my intention is my attention is going into my body, my finger, or my clit, or that, and then we're gonna see what arises in connection between our bodies.
Huh.
So, like I said, it's the best, fastest, most effective, and efficient way to get embodied that I've experienced.
So cool. I love that. Because I do qigong practice. I've done yoga in the past, working out, dancing, and it's interesting to imagine that a 15 or a 20 with the noticing step and other stuff, 20-minute practice could get someone more embodied than a workout. Is that what you're saying? Is that correct? Is it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying because you're also doing this in connection with another nervous system, another limbic system, another emotional system, like, and that like opens up your parts of your systems there. Well, like you can't really, you almost have no choice in the matter,
Yeah.
which is one of the brilliant pieces about this container, is that your system will start opening, you'll start feeling more because the other person's feeling more, and it just amplifies back and forth.
Huh.
Um, and your sexual energy is alive and active in this like this circuit, this practice. So that adds more energy and more aliveness, and it's going to start bumping up against anywhere that there's something that's stuck.
Hmm.
And so you've got all of you opening in connection with somebody. So even if you were to go join a workout class, your sex is probably not opening.
Yeah. 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 And the sex is like it's one of the most powerful sensation sources for the human somatic and nervous system. So like you're literally leveraging that to draw and heighten the pinprick point and focus of your attention, both like prefrontal cortex kind of executive functioning or like the opposite of ADD, like I'm right here right now in this little piece of my finger. And then there's also like the as you're pointing to the energy flow of like I could feasibly scrub the space clean of my nervous system like through a regular consistent practice with my partner of like unfreezing in the extreme cases for women who've not been or allowed the flow of their sexual energy to just like oh I was holding on to this thing and now I've released it, shame, blame, guilt, anger, frustration, whatever, in the movement of the energy of the connection. Am I reading it
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And that's also one of the reasons why that practice is so incredible for people who are in some sort of committed relationship,
Hmm.
because it will show you where there's something that needs to be dealt with.
So that there can be deeper intimacy with oneself and with one's partner.
Yeah, exactly.
What an epic tool. I'm going to speak for you in saying I have a recorded course of you teaching pussy stroking. I highly recommend it to anybody who's listening. We can we can find a way to get them in contact with you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that's a service to humanity. Go on. You're going to say something?
Um, so yeah, I just wanted to add that I have also since looked into and experienced other modalities of various different ways to mindfully stroke and touch genitals.
Huh.
Uh,
Cool.
yeah, so
What else would you recommend?
there's certainly more. And uh, I think that like as far as efficiency simplicity goes, Ohm is still at the top of the list because like I said, it's 20-22 minutes. It's got a very clear, simple container. You're only really doing maybe like two different things in it. So
Yeah.
like the simplicity is mind blowing. And to kind of if you want to add in some more like heart and romance and devotion and explore some more energies and frequencies that are really naturally aligned for a committed relationship. There's things like sacred spot massages and other things that can explore that as well, and adds different flavors that are also very nourishing and awesome to experience in a relationship.
Spectacular. I love that you have encyclopedic knowledge of pussy and genital stroking practices. That's so cool. Thank you for sharing.
I'm also quite familiar with butt stuff at this point too.
Butt stroking practices.
In a
Um,
sense, in a
yeah.
sense. One of my favorite offerings, even for women that I'm connected to, maybe flirtatious with, maybe just good friends with. Like we've got mutual consent. These butt massages,
Oh yeah.
even without like removing any clothes, with my energy, I can clear out your root.
So cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really fun things to geek out about.
I wish more of the women you'd gone out on those dates with could have just like had the awareness of that and what that would mean for them. Because I think more of those women would have been like, yes, I'll take the breath.
Right?
But it's
And
difficult to
so,
say. Like I can
yeah,
free you into the greatest experience of like safety and nourishing to touch and connection and intimacy that you'll ever experience potentially. But you don't want to breathe with me? Okay.
yeah. But that's one of the ways that I now hold myself and my own values with integrity, both professionally and personally. Is like, hey, I'll make some offers and invitations,
Yeah.
particularly as we're getting to know each other, so that like, hey, I'm not going to like ambush you with my sexual desires. I'm also not going to wiggle my way in and like do subtle energetic manipulation under the surface of our connection to get you to open up to me.
Yeah.
No, I want you to open up because you choose to, because you desire to.
Yeah.
It's first, do you desire it? And then do you choose it? And if you say yes to both of those things, great. Now we can go somewhere.
Yeah.
But unless you actually say yes to both of those things and then somehow indicate yes to me, preferably verbally and clearly, like we're not going anywhere. This
Yeah,
train's not leaving the station.
that's good. That's good. This is an education in deep like energetic sexual ethics for people who are listening. Like I noticed in the past I would choose partners who I could feel intuitively. This was at the shadow level, subconscious level, not conscious. I might have been conscious from time to time, but I it took time to find it where it was like I will people please be a hero, bring the enormous weight and depth of my skills and capacities as a facilitator to bear on someone who just is so out of her depth in even perceiving what that means to have someone like that put attention on them that then they won't leave me and hurt me later. Like because I've given so much. And so that's a whole nother podcast that we'll have to bookmark, which is like how to be a resource and fully self-expressed. Because you and I, we see things, we know things, we have skills and capacities. And the men who go through this system or yours will have these capacities. And like how and when to turn them off or not to turn them off. Like, all right, I am who I am. You're gonna have to sort yourself out around me. This is part of who I am. Is I ignite love wherever I go, a depth of
Yeah.
love, a regulated nervous system, a connection to God, an opening of soul. Like, by the way, that'll happen if you spend enough time around me. This morning I had a woman, she was like, I'm couch surfing. Do you have one? And I was like, what? Do you know what that means? Like, I've been attracted to you for 13 years. We've had a lot of sex in the past. And like, if you stay on my couch, we've had chemistry. So like, part of this conversation is be me taking notes on like how to educate her in informed consent in what she's asking for, because she'll
Yeah.
be magnetized and I'll be magnetized and something will arise. But anyway, I didn't get to talk about one taste. I didn't get to talk about God in the brain that gets activated.
Well, I can give
A
I
summary?
like
Yeah.
a short kind of connection because like this personal and sexual integrity piece
Yeah.
around it relates to the who
Great.
has power in the in
Great.
a relationship.
Go team.
And that so when you have more power, you have more responsibility, which also means in general, basically move fucking slower,
Yeah.
energetically, nerve system, all of it, move
Yeah.
slower. That's the number one rule and number one guidance I can give. And one taste as an organization, what they struggled with it was there was no coherence throughout the entire organization as to what exactly the ethical like parameters and values were, or if there was, it didn't actually sink in with everybody that they employed.
Yeah.
And so there were moments where the their employees, the people that had more power, did not be fully responsible to the degree that would have provided a more ethically sound environment.
Mm.
So, like structurally, that piece was missing for them. And something that I also just noticed, like I said, they're great at flipping the table over, and like confronting. They're really good at confronting things that are stuck.
Yeah.
But what was interesting to me was there was no real like, okay, well now what? After you've confronted and you've done a little bit of healing and have done a little bit of
Yeah, how do
processing and
you
clearing, which
reformulate?
they did have space for that, like a little bit, not as much. They loved the confronting. They did a little bit on the healing and clearing, more so for women than men, in my experience.
Hmm.
There was space for men, but you kind of had to be more deliberate about seeking it out. Um, but then even after that clearing, it's okay. Now what? Now what's the new orientation? What's the new framework? It doesn't exist inside of that organization, or at least did not exist inside of that organization. And that left people kind of feeling lost or confused, and so they kind of
And
just got
abused.
stuck in the unethically sound pond and pool that was there. And of course, shit happens. Like because you've got a bunch of different power balances that not everyone's paying full attention to or taking full responsibility for. And I don't like have anything specific in my experience that I either saw, witnessed, or heard of that was like egregious.
Yeah.
Certainly nothing that would broach a level of criminal whatever from my personal experience.
Yeah, they didn't call
So,
you for the FBI investigation.
right. So I get a sense that things were a little wilder before I entered it. Whatever. I can't comment on that for my own ethics. Like I don't know what happened, but like in general, I did see a number of just messes that got created. Some of which got cleaned up well, some of which not at all, some of which cleaned up and then back into a new mess. So it is very much, from my experience, a story of humans being human. And giving them a certain amount of grace for that. I'm also grateful to them for the experiences that I had that got me here to where I am now.
Hmm.
And could it have been done differently, perhaps more ethically? Absolutely. But like, what do you, even knowing that, what do you do with that?
Well, you write books and make really great documentaries like Orgasm Inc. and you put Nicole and
Oh
Penn
my God.
in yours.
So,
I
that
can make a drinking
that
game.
documentary was like watching a third grader run around to make a documentary.
That's awesome. That is awesome. That was worth the price of admission today because I love that documentary. I could play a drinking game with like, oh, I know that person and that person and that person and but
The journalistic integrity and professionalism of
was
that
missing
piece
was missing.
is
Yeah.
a dumpster fire.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Oh my
So
God.
it's a piece of incendiary propaganda.
Yeah, it's a hit piece.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like Netflix paid, or it was probably somebody that originated over in the BBC eventually talked Netflix into doing this and then making it a bigger deal. Anyway,
Well, I guess
don't need to go down that road.
the lesson is the importance, the necessity of a squeaky clean depth of shadow work and incisive awareness when one exercises one's capacity as a leader in transformation, and always be willing to be held accountable or to be transparent, to have checks and balances. And then yeah, so you're officially invited back. You know, give it a couple months for the
Yeah,
podcast. We could have
absolutely.
another one of these conversations. It'd be a blast. And my last question, other than where to find you, so feel free to weave that in, is what are your spiritual beliefs? Because I know you did Awaken Life Live at one point. You've done the landmark work. You've, you know, been around
Yeah.
some. You talk about source. Like, who do you follow? Who do you serve ultimately in terms of God or life or whatever?
I guess in general you could say it's life. I'm not uncomfortable with the like the terminology around God because I grew up as a Methodist, but it's interesting. Because at least the way that I feel about envisioning God now is it feels a little bit more of like a masculine containment type of force for good when I view it as kind of God. And then when I say something more along like source or universe, it's kind of like the feminine type of like divine entity that's a little bit more like accepting and loving and like focused on cohesion and like unity.
Uh-huh.
I don't, that might be a remnant of some of like the Christian teachings that's kind of still in my system. Ultimately, and like embodied and intellectually, I know that I kind of use those interchangeably as well because like God, source, universe could be a flying spaghetti monster. I don't care. Like it's kind of like this bigger thing than me that
Yeah.
has actual, to be honest, tangible presence and energy here on earth through each one of us that
Yes.
unites us and actually is also a separate individual thing somehow. Like there's no real like
It's
words that quite fit the best, so I use the ones that work the best.
yeah, yeah, it's like paradoxical and it's well good. Were you finished? I didn't mean to cut you off.
um so yeah, that's kind of what I believe in. That's what I'm here to serve is that higher thing that kind of help. So I really love the idea of having a like some sort of entity that's bigger, more powerful, higher, that's kind of separate, because that anchoring into trusting that and putting my attention and faith on that allows me to detach from anything that like my ego might try to distract me with,
Yep.
knowing full well that like ego will center has a wonderful healthy function and purpose, but like some of the shadowy stuff and some of like the more like oh I must have power stuff like that kind of gets in the way of what I'm actually here to do.
Yeah.
But then also knowing that it's abundant and it's all around us and it's in each one of us, so like okay great, well let me treat each person the same way that I would this like higher entity, full of respect, love, kindness, and like openness to connection where appropriate, and in alignment, resonance, that sort of thing.
Well, respect. There's another bookmark. We've had so many today. What a great conversation. How rich, deep, subtle, sensitive, considerate, conscientious, responsible, with respect to the full self-expression of sex, the intimacy, the nervous system. Um, where can people find you and get more of you, man?
Well, they can definitely find me on Facebook, at just Marshall Graeber. I'm literally the only one. So, and I've got a public profile. So if you're on Facebook, you want to connect with me there through Messenger, go right ahead. It's pretty simple. I also have, I kind of use like a Chirp Me as a digital business card, and that also I post up my events and workshops and courses on. So Lewis, if I can give you the link to
Yeah.
give out, then that's another way you can get a little bit deeper with me. And like I said, I'm also kind of in this transition point. So content wise, there's not a whole lot of time and focus for me right there right now, but I'll still be putting out some videos and things when I feel called to do so.
Amazing. Any last words?
My goodness. I think I'm going to go ahead and just end it there. Otherwise, we'll go on another little 5 minute run.
Another hour. Yeah, you saw me with the timer thing trying to regulate this. All right. Deeply appreciate love and gratitude for you. This has been so great. To those who are listening, please comment, share, like, subscribe, and go make love easy, y'all.
Absolutely.